I knew I was getting the email around 8 in the morning, but
Mhm,
I got it a little sooner. I was eating breakfast and I ran and got my computer from my
mhm.
backpack and logging in, my heart was pounding. But as soon as I saw the green pass, I was like, oh, like, okay, I can breathe now. Hey, Wasim.
How's it going?
Good, good.
Congratulations on passing your PE Power exam in first attempt.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely a
Yeah,
big weight off my shoulders.
not a little bit of weight, I think a huge weight, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was probably occupying your thoughts while you were sleeping and awake, right?
Yeah, I was like, while I was waiting for the results, yeah, I was trying my best to just forget about it and wait and see what happens. But, I mean, easier said than
Yeah,
done.
and you were on vacation when you got the result, right?
I was on vacation. I was
So
halfway through.
what was the instant reaction?
Well, I knew I was getting the email around 8 in the morning, but
Hmm.
I got it a little sooner. I was eating breakfast and I ran and got my computer from my backpack and logging in, my heart was pounding. But as soon as I saw the green pass, I was like, oh, like, okay, I can breathe now.
Did you jump off the seat or did you start dancing or you yelled or
Uh
what did you do?
No, because everybody was still sleeping except for my
Okay.
dad. He was getting ready to go out fishing with me.
Oh
So
yeah, I
so
see.
I
Oh,
I I went back into the room. I told my wife, shoot, I woke her up because last year
yeah.
when I passed the FE, she got mad that I didn't wake her up and tell her.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Nice.
but and then I told my dad, and he basically just said he's proud of me and
Yeah.
whatnot.
Nice. Congrats. Did you catch any fishes that day?
No, I got skunked the entire week. My dad caught 4 muskie. I caught zero.
Okay. Well, you caught the biggest prize, right?
Right,
Passing the PE Power exam. So,
right.
are you still in a little bit of a disbelief, Danny? Or
Yeah,
were you in a little bit of disbelief for the next few days? I know it's been what, a week, 2 weeks?
since I took the exam,
No, since you got the result.
since I got the result, yeah, it's been a week and a half.
Yeah. So there's still that element of, excitement
Mhm.
and disbelief and surreal feeling.
Yeah,
Difficult to
and
define it.
right, and even just like getting done with work every day and like, oh, I don't have to study
Yeah.
anymore, or even waking up yesterday, I don't have to go to class anymore. Like
Yeah,
I
so
can
yesterday
sleep in.
was Saturday. We were having our live training classes in the morning, right? So, and you showed up to every single one of those. So we'll
Mhm.
talk about that. So let's quickly backtrack. When did you graduate, Danny?
I graduated in May of 2015.
So 2015. So you had been out of school for some time,
Yes.
and you decided to take the FE electrical exam last year, right? In 2021.
Yes, it had been one of those things where like I'll get to it. I should do this. I'll
I
get
know,
it next year. I'll get it next year,
I
and
know, I know.
kept
So
putting
it's
it off.
it happens, right? That's why I
Right.
tell my students who are thinking of taking, or first of all, pursuing the P license is to start your exam preparation right away. Whether you're 10 years out of school at this stage, whether you're 1 year out of school, or whether even if you're in final year of studies, right? Start it
Right.
right now because it was easier yesterday and it's going to be more difficult tomorrow, regardless
Right.
of whether you're 5 year points, 6 year points, 7 year points. Some students tell me, Wasim, I'm 10 years out of school. Do you think that I should take the exam? I'm like, if you want to pursue P license, you should start now, right? Not tomorrow, type of thing. So,
Right.
how was it preparing for this exam, and which resources did you use for FE
With
Electrical?
the FE, it the FE studying for it, I'll be honest, was difficult because I was very rusty. I found your study guide on Amazon probably
Yeah,
back.
this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually initially I found the second edition on Amazon probably back in 2016, and I said to
Okay.
myself like, okay, when I get around to this is what I'm going to use. So
Okay.
by the time I finally committed to it, the third edition was out, and
Right.
that's all I used was the study guide. And like I said, I kind of got off to a shaky start because even just the math section of like finding the equation of a line, I had to, I mean, simple stuff I just couldn't remember because
Yeah.
I hadn't been using it every day.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, basically my process was I had a notebook, I wrote out every single problem and solved them in order. I flagged the problems that I got incorrect. And then after I finished my first pass, I went through it again and I focused on the problems I got wrong the first time.
Nice.
And
And when did you pass your FE exam?
last July,
So July. So basically within a year, you more or less
right,
passed both exams, give or take, right?
exactly,
So July you passed the FE exam, and August 2022 you passed the FE exams.
right.
So you passed the FE exam in July, and now let's discuss the P Power exam preparation. Back in April of this year, I remember, as we were discussing earlier, you sent me an email regarding a question that you had from my study guide for P Power.
Yep,
And this is essentially the book that you were using because you had already used the FE electrical book, right? Study
yep.
guide, and you had successfully passed the exam in the first attempt. So you were repeating the same strategy and using this book because this is the most recent book that's out there. This is the second edition of my study guide based on the computer-based format of PE Power. And for those of you who don't know, PE Power used to be conducted twice a year, or most of the PE exams were conducted twice a year until December 2020. And that was only in April and October. And then they switched it, very good move, to a CBD format, just like the FE exam. You have a reference handbook. And then since December 2020, it's been offered all year round. So I updated my first edition of the study guide for P Power, and then you were using this second edition, right? So you asked me a question in April of 2022 uh, about clarification you had, and I'm like, Danny, have you heard about my program, my P Power course and live training and whatnot? And then you got interested and then you signed up for the program as well. So how did you use these resources, Danny?
So when I first started studying, I think I had been studying for maybe 2 or 3 weeks when I contacted you. I was just shy of halfway through the book. I thought, okay, let me do the same strategy as before with the FE because it worked. I was planning on, going through the book one time and then basically just keep repeating it until I felt comfortable. But then, as you mentioned, I kind of ran into a problem where I couldn't figure out where I was going wrong, and that's when I contacted you. And like I knew the PE preparation would be a little bit different, but I was still going to try and get away with the same strategy. But once I was, about halfway through and contacting you, I realized that like just just knowing how to do the math wasn't going to be enough. You need to know the concepts and the theory behind it. So when you mentioned your course, like I think this is a good idea, if especially if I want to get through it in the first time. So basically, I signed up for your course, and then I initially I was going through the lectures selectively, and I know you and I had discussions, and you said no, like watch every single lecture. So I started doing that, basically watching the lectures while I was going through the rest of the study guide. And then once I got to the end, I went back to the beginning with the lectures and rewatched them from the beginning. I was going through the study guide for a second time. And then basically, once I caught up to where I started, I rewatched the second half of the lectures again because that material was arguably harder than the material at the very beginning.
Yeah. And then that's the on-demand content, right? On-demand
Right,
course, plus the study guide. You
right.
also participated in the live training, which I ran from May to July, 12-week period, right?
Hmm.
Every Saturday. You mentioned earlier on during the interview that you're now delighted that you don't have to wake up early on Saturdays and basically log in and then go through the, intense live training. So what was your experience of the 12-week live training program?
Um, I thought it was great for me. I think that really solidified the material for me, and just gave me the extra confidence. I mean, you have to go through the material yourself first before you get to the live training, or else you're not going to be keeping up. But just having that extra resource to solidify the material, and then being able to ask questions in real time, and also listen to questions that other students have that maybe you didn't think of, but once you hear it, it's like, oh, okay, that I didn't think of that, but that's a really good question, and now I have the answer. So for me, it made all the difference between, maybe barely passing versus passing with confidence.
Right, right. And your preparation, you clearly put in a lot of time and effort. You started your preparation somewhere in April, and then you put in like solid 3.5, 4 months, which actually is on the more aggressive side of things, because for the PE power exam preparation, it takes anywhere between, give or take, 4 to 5 months. So you got it done
Right,
within 3 to 4 months of preparation, which is impressive.
right,
But one of the things that the viewers, if you guys are watching this, don't, underestimate the amount of time and effort that Danny and everybody who passes the PE exam puts in. So, Danny, what was your typical daily and weekly schedule like when you were preparing for PE power exam?
so I would essentially, most days I would work from home. So when I first enrolled in your course, I'd be watching your lectures or your on-demand lectures while I was eating lunch. And then same thing after work, I'd watch them while I was eating dinner. And then on top of that, basically I'd get done with work and I'd study for 3, 4, 5 hours during the week, and then on the weekends, obviously, I would attend your live course, and then maybe study for another hour or two on Saturday, and then same thing with Sunday. I tried to take it a little bit easier on the weekends, so I didn't burn myself out.
Yeah.
But I would still study for an hour or two on Sundays as well.
So in
Um,
total, how many hours per week are we talking about?
Over 20,
Over
probably.
20 hours,
I
close to
think I
30.
average maybe 22 hours per week.
Okay.
I know when we first spoke at the start of my studies, I said, "Oh yeah, I'll do 15 hours a week." No, that
Yeah.
that didn't happen. It was definitely more than that. And
Yeah.
overall, because I logged my time, I spent over 300 hours total studying.
Great. Yeah. And Danny, I actually added the tracking sheet just recently to the course,
Okay,
where students now can easily track their hours. And those of you who like to study without tracking, I strongly recommend you to rethink the strategy. Okay. Because tracking the hours, you don't need, I mean, I'm not asking you to become bean counter or this or that, but it just helps you stay in sync with your progress. So if you haven't made
right,
any progress, you'll be able to clearly see why the progress has not been made. Because last Saturday, I was out with the friends and didn't spend any time, and that resulted in a domino effect where now I'm actually, not, the momentum is gone, and you really need to pick up, right? So
right,
track how many hours you're putting in, set a baseline. As you said, Danny, um, initially you were thinking about 15 hours, and I told you, no, PE power exam, you got to put in 20 plus hours, right? I'm glad to see that you were
yeah,
consistently doing that. Right. And the other thing that I really liked what you said was that there's a difference between barely passing and passing comfortably, right? And you
right.
pass comfortably. So we'll get to that, but before that, I'm going to ask you this question: what sacrifices you think you made, right? What during this 3.5, 4 month on your personal side of things, maybe letting go, attending some of the events, family and excursions and whatnot. Uh, because I want to deliver this point to the students that if you feel like your life is going to carry on as normal, you have to sort of make some sacrifices, right?
Yeah, basically what you just said. I mean, all your free time is essentially gone. Um, there were several weekends where my family would be looking to do something, or my friends texting me, "Hey, let's have game night." Like, sorry, like I've committed myself to this. Just let me get through this, and then we can celebrate. We can have game night, whatever,
Yeah.
or like. family asking me to, go out of town with them. Just
Yeah.
sorry, just not happening right now.
Yeah.
And then even with my wife on the weekends, I'd have to tell her. I mean, and she was very understanding. She was super supportive, but like,
Good.
just give me 2 hours to study, and then we can watch something or
Yeah.
or make dinner together.
And it's not just one weekend or 2 weekends or three
No,
weekends. It's like 3 months, 4 months, and you're actually on the more experienced side of things, right? You actually got it done within 4 months. Students take 5 months sometimes even 6 months. I honestly don't recommend either for FE exam or the P exam going past the 6 month mark because you're just
right.
gonna burn yourself out. Okay. It will always keep on lingering at the back of your mind, and you gotta increase the level of intensity for a shorter period of time and get done with that. Okay, so let's talk about passing comfortably versus barely passing, right? So I know you were overpaid the last Zoom call, and again, whenever students enrolled in my FE program, the PE Power program, I actually have a one-on-one Zoom call. I believe in helping my students through every stage of the game. So when we had our Zoom call initial, and then you had taken the practice exam, and then we had a Zoom call, I told you that Danny, take the exam this weekend. You're ready,
Right.
right? You remember, and your
Oh,
exam was 2 weeks out. I
yeah.
told you that try and pull it back, and be done with it sooner rather than later. And you're like, no, Wasim, maybe I'll study a little bit and whatnot. So you were mentally ready to take it 2 weeks out. But your preparation, the point I'm trying to make was at that level. And I honestly don't say this to every student. Maybe I would say 20% of the students, I'll tell them, you're ready, go ahead. I think you're going to pass the exam. About 20% of the students, I say otherwise, right? That
Oh,
you need
okay.
to push the exam, the date out by at least 2 weeks, give yourself a little bit more of preparation time. And 60 to 50% of the students, the time that they have is probably the optimal time. So you were in that smaller group, the elite group, which is you're ready to take the exam sooner than what you're scheduled for. So how did you make it happen where you got to a point from in April where I don't want to say like had no clue, but you were probably underestimating how difficult this exam preparation is to the point where you got over prepared, and I was telling you that you know what, you should probably get this done sooner. You're ready.
Um, basically, just I made a plan, I stuck to it, and just keep putting the time in. And my first like test to see where I was at was the NCEES official practice exam, which I took that, I think, 3 or 4 weeks before the Zoom call you're referring to, and that really gave me a baseline of where I was at that time. And at that time, I definitely was not ready to take the actual exam. So basically, I tried to pick out the areas that I still needed help with, and I just kept hammering those areas for the next few weeks. And then I took your practice exam and did much better on that one than the official one. Um, so yeah, basically just put the time in, make a plan, stick to it, and just keep trying to work on the areas that you're struggling in, and also the areas that you're doing well in. Every so often, come back to them and make sure you haven't forgotten the concepts, because
Yeah.
that happened to me a few times where,
Hmm.
okay, well, I did fine in this 4 weeks ago, but let me see where I'm at. And
Right.
okay, clearly I've forgotten the concepts. I need to review this again.
And it's a frustrating part. It sort of sets you back. Hey, I knew how to
Yeah.
exactly do this. Like I was a master of solving per unit systems 2 3 weeks
Yes.
ago. Why is it that I'm struggling now? So and then also puts you in a state of confusion that what about the other so many topics, dozens of
Right.
topics, or do I need to revisit? And that's why the practice exams are crucial, right? And I recommend doing the NCEES sample exam 3 to 4 weeks before, and then my practice exams, and revisiting the mini exams and the quizzes and the study guide problems, because it really brings everything together. The one thing that I caution students against, and let me know what your thoughts are on that, is you should not try to pass the P exam at least just by doing a bunch of practice problems. Okay, it will most likely not result in a successful outcome. because unlike FE exam, where maybe, and even for the FE exam, I recommend, going deeper in theory, understanding the concepts from the basics. Um, with PE power exam, I don't think there's a high probability of you comfortably passing by just doing the practice problems. You really need to get into nitty-gritty details of the concepts. What are your
Right.
thoughts?
Right, exactly, and that's why I think I didn't understand when I first started studying. Um, I thought I was gonna pass the exam just by doing the study guide, which I mean that it's a great resource, but I thought I could pass it just by doing practice problems and all right, just walk into the exam, take apply all the math and be done with it. But no, you really need to know the theory and the concepts behind it. And that's what I got out of the on-demand course and the live course. What um that I wasn't initially employing in my studying was the depth and the concepts behind everything.
Right. Yeah, I know that's super important. And we'll just close out on your exam day experience. How was your exam day experience? Was it more comfortable, easier as compared to the FE exam? And how did you manage your time? How early did you finish? And all
Oh,
that sort of stuff.
I think I walked out feeling more confident than when I walked out of the FE exam. I definitely felt prepared. Basically, I finished the first section in about 2.5 hours, and then I went back and checked over the problems I'd flagged that I either just wasn't 100% confident in my answer, or I couldn't figure it out. I gave them another try, and then once I got through all the flagged problems, I went back and I actually just rechecked my work on every single problem real quick. Just does this answer make sense? Do these steps make sense? Because the last thing I wanted to do was get problems wrong because I made just a
Right.
silly mistake. And that was something I learned from taking the practice exams, where there were a handful of problems where it's like I knew how to do this, but I punched in my calculator wrong, or something silly like that. And then once I finished the first section, took my lunch, tried to decompress a little bit, went back in for the second one. I finished that with an hour and a half left on the clock. And then I did the same thing. I went back through the flagged problems, and I checked my work. I actually did catch one or two mistakes that I had made when I like on questions that I didn't even have flagged. I checked it and oh, I made a mistake here. Let's redo this one. So that's definitely something I'd recommend doing. Even though like I once I answered the question number 80, it's like okay, like I really want to get out of here
Yeah.
because I just want to be done with this. But it's definitely worth just making sure you didn't mess anything up.
Yeah. No, that's great because you were clearly not pressed for time, right? You had ample
Right.
time on your hand and you had a good idea of which questions are a little bit doubtful, and then you got time to check. It seems like double check in some cases, some of your work. So, and that's again goes back to what I was saying earlier. You were over prepared. Even if you had taken this exam 2 weeks earlier, you would have comfortably passed. So, and lastly, just to close out, how did these exam preparation resources, the three resources that you use, the study guide, the on-demand course, and live training, helped you, and why would you recommend it to somebody else?
Oh, basically for me, it had everything I needed to pass all in one place. And if I hadn't found this, I honestly don't know what I would have done to prepare for the test. Because I mean, I know there's other classes out there, but I don't think they have this level of resources where you've got all the practice problems in the study guide, you've got all the concepts and the theory and the on demand, and you've got the live lectures where you can show up and ask questions. I don't know of any other programs that have all three of those things at like right at your fingertips. So
Mhm.
for me, it made the difference between passing and failing. Using all three of those resources.
Right. Thanks for the feedback, Danny. And obviously, none of this is possible without putting in the time and effort, right?
Right.
You can have the best exam preparation resources, you can have the best planning, but as I always say, most of the things actually fail in execution. So you got to still execute the program, the plan, and congratulations to you,
Thank
and
you.
very impressive amount of effort that you put in. And now for the rest of your career, you can reap the benefits of being a PE. You'll get
Right.
recognition at work. You mentioned that you're already starting to get recognition at work,
Mhm.
promotions, salary increases, bonuses, opportunities to grow your career, take on more interesting projects, make moves in your career and all those things, right? So
Right.
another thing with the PE power exam preparation, which you would probably agree, is that it really is a well-designed exam specification, in my opinion, because they make you go through general power engineering codes and standards, all the core fundamentals of power systems engineering. So it's a great refresher just from a learning point of view as well. And hopefully you're feeling more comfortable and confident in your understanding of power systems after going through
Oh,
this.
absolutely. There have been things I've learned in your course and just through studying for the exam that I've already, implemented into my, what I use as references at work. Um,
Right.
that, just because I didn't know until I started studying for this. So
Right.
it definitely it's helpful even outside of just exam preparation and passing the exam.
Exactly. All right. Again, many congratulations, Danny, and relish this accomplishments. It's a well-deserved accomplishment. And, I look forward to staying in touch with you, and best of luck for your future endeavors.
Thank you. Likewise, and thank you for, all the help you gave me throughout my studies.
You're most welcome.